Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
If you're watching YouTube Live or Facebook Live, there on the screen with us is Nick Hall. He is the founder and president of Pulse and a leading international evangelist, doing some amazing things with Together 2022 in 40 days. Dallas will rock. He's from Minnesota, but he's kind of out of place there in a sense. But I don't know. What have you picked up since you've been in Texas, Nick? Did you buy a cowboy hat? What?
I've been working a lot more y'alls into my sentences, so
Good.
There's a couple things that have been impacted.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, being from Texas, says the best barbecues in Texas. What was the name of that place, Dan?
Cooper's Barbecue. It's in the Fort Worth Stockyards.
Cooper's. I have had Cooper's. I think I'm not going to make any controversial statements about Texas barbecue on this broadcast.
Okay. All right.
We want people to show up at the
trying to be all things to all people here.
Yeah, we got you.
Well said, Nick. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time. I do want to get to talk about Together because that's why we're here, but also about Ukraine. You've got a staff in Ukraine leading humanitarian efforts and helping to evacuate hundreds of people. And probably for some time, right? How's that going? Can you give us an update? And then we'll just move right on into get to Together.
Yeah, we've had as many as 20 full-time staff in Ukraine, headquartered in Kiev for the last 8 years. And, so it's been a crazy season, I think, along with everybody else who has ministry operations there. You said it. I mean, we basically have transitioned from a team that has been facilitating events, and we've had events as big as, we had one event, 400,000 young people came out in Kiev. So transitioning that to really trying to come alongside the church and the refugee situation there, trying to help people across the borders, trying to connect churches. And I would say the good news is there's been such a family atmosphere between the Church of Ukraine and the Church of Russia, the Church of Poland, the Church of Hungary, all of these bordering nations, to see the Church of Jesus Christ rising up, to help families, and so there's been nothing short of just inspiring sacrifice. We had some of our team and even volunteer that got mortared, and so we had some volunteers that we actually lost in the midst of this, and yet nobody has quit. Like, they are just saying, man, this is about the gospel. Wow. We're Christians for moments like this, to shine and to love and to help those that are hurting. And so God's moving. You don't hear that in the headlines as much, but people are coming to Christ in crazy waves. There was one story where people were sheltered during some shelling that was happening, repenting of sin during the shelling in the basement, and then sneaking above ground to get baptized in between shellings. Wow. And so, God is moving even in the midst of this painful time.
And how cool is it to hear, you mentioned the churches in Ukraine and in Russia and all around, but to hear the church in the Ukraine and the church in Russia working together, even though their two countries are at war.
Yeah, I mean, I think people realize our citizenship isn't from this world.
Yeah. Right.
And so while our nations may be in discord, that doesn't mean we're not brothers and sisters in Christ. And, I just think there's obviously some complications and some nuance of how you can flesh that out. I mean, a lot of churches are giving under the radar, trying to help in ways that can't be public right now. But there are some incredible stories happening of Ukrainians and Russians, not only praying for each other, but literally like sacrificially giving on each other's behalf, and just saying, man, we realize that this isn't a kingdom war, right? Yeah. This is a war between people and ideology, and that is always going to happen. And yet, as a believer, we know that these are the moments that Christ has called us. We're not here to bow to Caesar, whoever that is. Like, we're here to say, man, we have a higher calling. We're called to love our neighbor. We're called to love our brother, our sister, and even our enemy. Yeah. And that is the call of Christ.
Wow.
That's so good. Nick Hall, founder and president of Pulse. We're going to talk about Together 2022 here in just a few. Yeah, from the get-go of this, and I don't remember who we had on, Dan. Somebody just mentioned praying for not only praying for Ukrainians and the Christians there, but the Russian Christians. And it struck me. I was like, yeah, you're right, because they're in a place where they are serving God and they want to help. But it's a dangerous place to be in. So we continue to lift up those guys in prayer. How can folks help you guys in that particular project?
Yeah, there's a pulse.org/Ukraine relief is where people can find out about it and, give and be involved. I mean, really, we're just trying to be a conduit right now. I mean, we've purchased some buses and vans trying to help with transportation needs, trying to set up call centers. It's some of the simple things. It's like, it's just trying to connect the people in need to the resources that are available. And unfortunately, a lot of the humanitarian aid that's coming doesn't touch the church. And yet it's the church that has the biggest infrastructure that can really help come alongside these, men and women who are hurting, both with their physical needs and their emotional needs, but obviously the spiritual ones as well. This is a very religious people, right? These people aren't, for the most part, they're not like rabid atheists. I mean, they're majority Orthodox. They fear God, whether their relationship is close or not. Like, they're looking for prayer, they're looking for comfort, they're looking for hope, and they welcome prayer. And so anyway, it is an opportunity. But yeah, you can check that out, pulse.org/Ukraine relief.
All right, well, let's get to Together, which is coming up June 24th through the 25th in Dallas, my hometown. What's up? At the Cotton Bowl, and that's a big stadium, big facility. So you guys are going to hopefully have a huge crowd. Talk about what Together is all about, and what you guys hope to accomplish.
Yeah, well, this all started probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. We were really praying for unity in the church across America, and really feeling like there's these gatherings, but they're so often siloed. And often you can have a massive gathering in one part of town, and then right next door you can have churches like grieving that God's not moving. And the only reason they don't know about it is because it doesn't have their flag up, right? It's a Baptist gathering, not a charismatic gathering, or it's a whatever. And we were just saying, what would it look like for true John 17 unity? And we were inspired actually by a gathering that happened 50 years ago in 1972 called Explo 72. It was the largest evangelistic training event. And at the time, it was the largest youth gathering in American history. It was 70,000 young people came in June of 1972 at the Cotton Bowl. Wow. And it was Billy Graham and Bill Bright filled it. They had, artists there. I mean, Johnny Cash even showed up. That's how epic it was.
Wow.
But Keith Green was there. Larry Osborne was there. A ton of those Jesus people worship groups were there. And it really was a gathering that marked a generation. And so, we planned, now this is our third Together gathering, but we planned one at the National Mall in 2016. We had over 250,000 young people there. We planned one actually in Fort Worth at the NASCAR track in 2018, had over 80,000 there. And now this is our third gathering. And this gathering is on the 50-year anniversary of what we would say, like, where it all started for us. Like, this is the storyline. It was a time of protest. It was a time of division. It was a time of war. It was a time of presidents being assassinated, right? It was crazy town in the 60s and 70s. And yet out of that rubble came a new sound, a new voice, a new Jesus movement. And we're just standing on the shoulders of that saying, God, we need to see it again. And so we can't think of a better place to do that than back at the same place. The Cotton Bowl is still standing. I tell young people who love vintage T-shirts, and they'll spend $150 on a T-shirt. Say, man, this is the vintage T-shirt of stadiums.
Yes, it
is. And it is epic. And, we have a ton of people comment, messages from everybody from Francis Chan to Tony Evans to musical guests like Chris Tomlin, Lecrae. Guys from The Chosen are going to be there. But the whole purpose is to train a generation to share the gospel and to send them home, to bring Jesus back to their friends. So we have people from all 50 states coming. It's free. And we really think this isn't about a concert. This is about commissioning a generation, because we need Jesus now.
Awesome.
Now, is this something that's going to be streamed for those that won't be able to make it to Dallas, or?
Yes, absolutely. I want to reiterate and encourage people, though, while I say, I really do encourage people. There's nothing like being there. And people are hopping in buses and vans. We're even raising money if people can't afford to get a bus or van. Like, we'll help give gas money. Like, we don't want there to be any obstacle. And especially, we're trying to target, communities who maybe wouldn't normally come. Maybe it's a rural community. Maybe it's an urban community. Maybe it's an immigrant community. Like, we just believe that we need the whole church to gather. And so even now, like, I just got a message from somebody coming from Korea.
Wow.
So people are traveling from literally all over the world to be there. But if for some reason you just can't get there, like, this will be a global broadcast event. Like, I really believe, again, the purpose of the event, singularly stated, is to equip believers to be confident talking about Jesus in a world that desperately needs light and desperately needs hope. And we are the answer. I think even this weekend, I had a very tangible example of this need. I went to church on Saturday night with my wife and kids. I don't go to a big church. Maybe there's 200 people there. But after church, we're leaving the parking lot, and there's this young man sitting in the parking lot, like literally on the edge of the parking lot, sitting under a tree. And he clearly hadn't come for church. I didn't know why he was there. I'm getting in my, a family's minivan. Yes, I have a minivan. Relevant.
You're a soccer
no
dad.
more part of the equation when you're a dad. But, I go and I talk to this kid. So 200 plus people leave my church. Probably 50 of them at least drove by this kid just sitting there. And I just go up and talk to this young man. And I just said, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm just having a really hard time. And just kind of wanted to sit here and trying to get perspective on what I'm supposed to do. And, I listened to this young man for 5 minutes. And I just said, do you have faith? Did you come here because you have faith? He's like, no, I don't know anything about that. And I just started to share him for the first time in his life, 18-year-old kid. He's never heard the gospel. He's never heard about Jesus. And I say to him, I said, hey, would you be okay if I prayed for you? Like, God cares about you. He cares about what you're going through. And this young guy says, man, that would be amazing. And I pray for him. And after we pray, he says, can I give you a hug? He says, nobody has ever done anything like that for me in my life.
Wow.
And I just am sitting there thinking, like, how many believers right now are just, man, we're so blind by our own busyness, and we're so blind by our own anxiety. And yes, the anxiety is real, but the reality is the problems that we're worried about are not eternal problems. And we have the hope of the gospel. We have the joy of the gospel. We have the light of Jesus. And we are not testifying. Like, we are not witnessing. And I just think it's time for the church to come back to her first love. It's time to get our swagger back. It's time to get a little bit of that Texas strut.
Yes.
But not for all of other things. This isn't about being bold for politics or being bold for your opinion about a mask mandate or a vaccine. This is time to be bold for Jesus. And I just think, man, there's a huge opportunity before us. And that's why we're doing this.
Awesome.
Man,
check it out, pulse.org. You can see the huge list of speakers and artists. I mean, this is an event. You got to check it out. All the different people that are going to be there. You'll be blown away. So be sure, check it out, pulse.org, to get all the
And it's
details.
free. It's free.
What more could you ask for?
Nick, we'd
Don't
love
like it. If you don't like it, we'll give you a full refund.
Nick, we'd love to talk to you right after to see what's going on the rest of 2022 and then into 2023. We appreciate you and your staff, your team, and what you guys are doing. We really do appreciate it. What a story about the young man under the tree. Yeah. God led him to that tree. Thank God that you were so obedient and loved on him. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.